Hello, all you beautiful gamers out there. I am Totem Lord,
I am Uber Lord.
And I'm Ice Lord.
and today on the channel I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy IX, a true gem that all three of us really hold dear, and I just thought it'd be a really fun discussion to have on the channel. Because Final Fantasy's been around since what was it, 99 or 2000?
Something. I want to say like maybe even a little bit, like 98. No,
I'm pretty sure it's 99.
99. Okay.
Because this,
Well,
this
I haven't looked up the years myself, so I cannot quote that.
really put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I'm just like.
I remember watching like a step parent play this game when I was like 5, and that would be like 2000.
What do you want to start?
Oh yes, but yeah, I remember this is like the era when Final Fantasy was really hitting its stride. 7 came out and it really became mainstream, and 8 came out to follow up, and then 9 came out, and it was a big return to its roots. That's probably one thing I really enjoyed about Final Fantasy 9 is because I've followed Final Fantasy ever since the very first one, back when they did the crystals, back when they had fighters and mages and stuff, and they kind of deviated away from that from about 6 through 8. So for me, it was really cool to see them go back to the crystal, go back to the roots, and they even make tons of references. I don't know how many references you guys get, but when I go through it, I just eat it all up. It is just so much fun for me. What about you guys?
I know that one of my favorite references is like I didn't really even have too much context on it, but there is a thing that if you get the Daga's artifact and the Un's mirror, and you are in Black Mage Village at the end of the game, so in Disc 4, and if you access the megaphone there, it plays the music from like Final Fantasy 2.
Oh wow!
And so that is one thing. But yeah, I really did enjoy this because I was introduced to Final Fantasy by Final Fantasy 7 through my brother Sean, and then I was introduced to this one some years later through my brother Trent, and he borrowed this from one of his friends, and I would always want to watch him play that. One of my fondest memories of it is like Totem Lord over here was talking about is it really does not like because Final Fantasy 7 and 8 especially really lets you kind of modify your stats at will. And this game, you can still do that, but it's really a more underlying thing. It's really just like a structure, and you level up a certain way. And each character has its own archetype. Like you have your mages, and you have 3 mages, you have 3 attackers, and then you have one that kind of does both.
Oh yes, good old Kina.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ice Lord? What anything to add to fond memories of Final Fantasy 9?
My favorite part of the whole thing was really close to the beginning when the princess is like trying to run away and get captured, and the knight is just running around trying to find her and be like, no.
He's literally going insane, and it's the best thing ever.
It really does start off on kind of a lighthearted, goofy note, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of introduces you to all the main characters right off the bat, and you even see Amaranth like close to the beginning of the game as well, even if he isn't thrust into the overall story.
Indeed. So one thing that I thought, which made Final Fantasy IX so special, is sometimes whenever you come back to an old game, you play it and you're like, I enjoyed this when I was a kid, but it's okay now, and you just kind of stop halfway through. When they resold this on the Switch, I bought it right away, and I didn't know if I was going to finish through it, but I've made all the way to the end, and I've had a blast playing it. And the question is, what makes this game right here so special? Why does it hold up? What's special about it?
I think that actually, do you want to go first?
I think it's just the sentiment from when I first played it was something that me and Overlord did together every day, and
it was kind of our first like real bonding thing.
Yeah,
I got to introduce her to RPGs, and it was a very nice experience for both of us.
The music was a really big part of that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's one thing because we were talking about this earlier, her and I, and one thing we very vehemently agreed on was that this game is scored beautifully.
I would totally agree. It really captures the emotions of the of the moments that happen. Like I don't know if hopefully the camera's catching it, but we have the overworld music playing right now, and it's so serene, so calm, and it's also fitting for an adventure too. And there's times when the party's like frantic and panicking to gain control of a situation, and that music like even kind of gets you going. It's just so well done, which is in a way it's kind of typical for Final Fantasy, but they definitely didn't lose it on this game.
Oh yeah, they went out of their way to score this one well.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. The music definitely helps add to it. There's great story. There's a lot of character development in this one, in opposed to I don't know. I'm gonna put 7 on the spot and just say the out of left field part where Cloud all of a sudden, totally flips the story around. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm
Yeah, it's just like I used to get airsick all the time, and just like simply turns into, let's just say, a pansy.
love Final Fantasy VII, but that part is so confusing.
One of my favorite games, but it's just like why do you completely change what you are that you've been all this time and favor something else? Like I know that you're kind of personifying something else, but you made that you, so why not continue to be that way? But that's neither here nor there.
But yes, like Uberlord was saying here, we had a discussion about this before the video, but one thing that's really cool is each character goes through like their own trials and tribulations. There's like I keep saying, there's a lot of character development. They start off one way, and you get to see them build up to another.
They have to overcome something. It's like it comes to a hill and they come to like some kind of problem. Something happens to one of them, or they come to a choice, and they have to make a decision about themselves because it goes against what they have been feeling or how they've been acting up until this point. And so they end up overcoming it, and they grow from those experiences. Like we were talking about. We're talking about Amaranth here, and just the fact that he's a lone wolf, and he doesn't really rely on anybody. And then Zidane ends up saving his life later on, and he comes like, well, maybe this isn't so bad having someone look out for me all the time, and comes to realize what it means to be part of a team. And so that's just one example, but each of them, even Kina, like has their own little thing that they go through, and it just all this other stuff. Like and what one of the things that Totem Lord made a point to mention is that each one of them, you probably can't see it very well, but each one of them has their own little quote associated with them, and it kind of represents what that character is about and who they are as a person.
A couple here that stick to mind. Zidane's was what is it? You don't need a reason to help somebody.
You don't need a reason to help people.
Adelbert, I always call him Albert. The Knight. His is having sworn fealty, must I live my life in servitude?
Yeah.
Which that's a really neat conflict that he has. He's devoted his life to the Queen, to the Guard, and suddenly he's finding things that make him question all of his beliefs.
Mm-hmm. And has to really go against them and kind of almost become a rebel in a way. Something like that?
I really like Vivi's storyline and how he has to discover basically who he is, and he has to discover that he may one day die for no reason in particular. And
spoilers.
Whatever.
No.
If you haven't played Final Fantasy IX,
it's a 20-year-old game, people.
Right.
If you haven't played it, go play it.
But he's kind of my favorite because, first of all, he's super cute, and second of all, he has a huge plot line in this game. And
I was actually talking to them earlier. I'm not trying to cut you off, but just to add to that, I feel like out of everyone and how everyone grows, I feel like he probably has the most growth throughout the whole game, or at least if not like the most, then like he's right there, like 1 and 2.
He's maybe not the focal point, but yeah, he's definitely a major part of the story because he goes from being this shy, unconfident person, and he doesn't become completely confident, but it's like you guys said, he has to learn about his people and what happens, and almost like the life cycle of his people, which is quite a shock. I mean, we take it for granted that we already know what happens. We get old, we wither, stuff can happen, but he can just stop out of nowhere. His people
keel over in a moment.
Yeah,
and that was if you want to talk about that, but bringing up how they became aware.
Yeah, so when they go into the little forest that has all the dark mages in it, they go and talk to the people, and Vivi finds out from one of the other people that they had to. Basically, they found out by this guy just saying, "Hey, do you remember being born?" It's like, "No." He's like, "I didn't either. I was pretty much I just woke up one day, and then I looked to my right, and there's someone
a dead
just
body.
like me, dead, with blood everywhere, and I ran for my life." And a whole bunch of these villages did the same thing, and they just ran, and they came together and made this little village. And
we were actually speculating about how because they were created on the Mist-continent, and then they ended up congregating on the outer continent, and so we were kind of speculating how they got there, because the way, as far as we know, the secret passage leading from the Mist-continent to the outer continent was only known by like Regent Sid and like a handful of people on the Mist-continent. So it's tough to say, like, did they magic their way over there, or did they swim because they have some kind of different physicality than we do, or something, because they were made, so it's kind of hard to say what exactly they do, and they seem like they're fairly strong. So I mean, it's really like, I feel like Totem Lord said, is kind of open to speculation on that one.
It's always nice to leave something like that in a story too, because a story doesn't have to explain every little thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's not a focal point anyway. But it's still kind of like, he even asked them like, "How did you guys find us?" Well, we just kind of found ourselves together, and that was what happened. Like, they don't really explain it. So I think they wanted to maybe kind of give you a little like, I wonder how that happened.
A little bit of wondering is good for the soul.
Exactly, makes you think.
Indeed. All right, so I don't know if this will be really a focal point or not a focal point, but favorite character. But we could kind of just go over each character and like what makes them special.
Okay.
I agree.
I will lead off.
Lead off? Okay.
Zidane. Zidane's probably one of my favorite characters. Which I don't know, but it's just like he's kind of good for being good. Not like Captain America good, where he's
he's not a Boy Scout.
Yeah, he's not a Boy Scout. He's really just a good all around guy. I mean, you could probably ask him to help you move, and he would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he goes out of his way to help people. He's very caring. I don't really know if we've even seen a main character like this before.
No, probably not. There's usually one who's just, they're good, but like they're kind of like if you think about like if you want to use examples of like Cloud and Squall, like they really don't care about anything.
They're more thrust into it.
Yeah, they're just like Cloud's a mercenary, and Squall is basically the same thing. So it's like, they really don't care about what's going on in the world at that time. They're just like, oh, we're getting paid to be in a conflict. Cool.
I mean, a close example I could think of might be Cecil from Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah. But he's a lot more involved.
But he's not as passionate as Zidane is, though.
Definitely not.
Like Cecil, he does want to, figure out what's going on with with everything, but he's not going to go out of his way to, he doesn't have that nurturing aspect, I guess.
Yeah, at least he doesn't get that until later.
Yeah. All right, how about the knight? Because I can't pronounce his name.
Steiner. We just call him Steiner because his first name is just Adelbert.
Adelbert.
That guy.
Do you want to talk about him?
Steiner.
Or would you rather talk about Vivi because he's your favorite?
I already kind of covered Vivi.
Okay.
Steiner, he's the comic relief. You can tell because he throws little temper tantrums when he doesn't get his way, or the princess isn't listening to what he has to say and what he wants to do. And she's like, "No, I'm going to go do my own thing." And he's like, "Well, I have to follow you, and I don't want to do this." And, life's unfair. And then...
Sworn filthy.
Right? And later on, he just sees that the queen was not who she said she was, and he has to change his whole mindset and be like, maybe this person isn't who I should be sworn to. Maybe I should try to start thinking for myself, maybe?
It kind of shatters him, really.
Yeah, it really does. It breaks him a little bit.
Like, out of all of them, I think his is the one that really gets him to his core.
Yeah, it definitely, because it shakes his belief system, and that's
bad.
And all he's known is, service and war all this time. One of my favorite scenes, actually, like, I don't know why I think about this, but it's like right near the beginning when you first get to Lindblom, and they're sitting there in the indoor airship dock, and Steiner's giving Zidane crap because he looks kind of like, he's a little bit raggedy, even though he's wearing, fairly nice clothes, but he still looks like a thief, you know what I mean? And he's giving him crap. He's like, well, if you didn't like such a miserable oaf, then, they might they might accept us. And he's like, hey, I'm not the idiot with a loud voice and the dirty, rusty armor. And he's like, what?
I'm not the one shouting, princess, princess, everywhere we go.
Princess!
The game has lots of laugh out loud moments like that.
It really does.
I feel like it's mostly between Zidane and Steiner because, it's like Ice Lord says, he is the comic relief, but he does have character. But yeah, Zidane is constantly calling him out on his BS, and it is just wonderful. On my Switch, I'm pretty sure I took a lot of photos of this game or videos just because it's so good.
Righteous. Especially when you name the characters and then they kind of personify the names you give them, so it makes it even better.
I named Steiner after you, by the way.
No, I believe it. What?
Well, I named you after Vivi.
On me, that's on mine. That's Shad. Steiner Shad. Well, since I touched on Amrat a little bit earlier, I'll talk about Freya and her story because it's probably, I would say, the saddest because she loses the love of her life. She's kind of in a similar situation as Steiner in the fact that she's a dragon knight and she's sworn service to the King Bermesia. And so, she's basically, when she meets Zidane again, she's basically lost, I think. Because she doesn't really seem to have a goal and she's just kind of looking for places to feel useful.
Don't they meet in a bar?
They meet in a bar, yeah. Right when Zidane gets back. And they talk about the festival of the hunt and stuff like that, which kind of tells you that Freya doesn't really have any real goal right now. Like, obviously she's not serving her country, so she's more or less, I don't know if she's necessarily abandoned it, but she might have kind of put herself in exile. But then Bermesia gets attacked, she goes back there, the city's leveled. People that she's probably known are dying and, running and trying to flee for their lives and all that stuff. And she comes to find out that the person that she loves is indeed alive, but cannot remember for the life of him who she is. And both places, Bermesia and Clara, both get destroyed. They essentially sever all ties to the Bermesian kingdom until it's rebuilt. And so she literally has nothing.
Clara, wasn't that the holy?
Yeah, the holy place, and they severed ties with the Bermesia over tribal conflict, and then has since been in peace, protected by the tornado. And so, that whole thing started, and the sandstorm had started to subside, and that's when they were able to actually go in there and stuff. And they probably didn't put enough magic power into it, or there might just be too many people present or something like that, and the magic, whatever spell was keeping the sandstorm in place, wasn't holding right or something, and I think that's why they were able to get inside in the first place.
Infiltrate it,
yeah. And aside from just whatever Kuja did.
Yeah, Freya's character is one that really loses quite a bit in the story. Definitely one of the more tragic points of the story.
She actually gets lost in Alexandria, and so she ends up staying there for like a disc and a half. Zidane comes back and says, "Where have you been?" I'm pissed off at you. I'm not mad at anybody else but you.
Alright, how about the princess? Garnet Till Alexandros the 17th. Or Dagger.
Or Sarah.
That person.
What a silly name to come up with for yourself, though.
When that part was brought up to me the first time, I was like, no.
Right?
Which brings me to why I always name her Sarah, because that is her actual name. If you go into Maiden Sorry in Disc 4, you can find that out.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I always thought Garnet was such a weird girl's name.
No, that's the original name of the princess, and so that's what they called her.
Oh.
They said literally that she looks exactly like Princess Garnet, except that she had a horn.
Oh.
So they sawed it out.
Well, they probably pulled it out, be my guess.
No, that would hurt.
I imagine if she has a scar, it's probably very faint. because she was very young when it happened.
The kingdom was just devastated by. Would have been devastated by the loss of their princess, so they found a replacement. They parent trapped it.
Yeah. And the king died anyway, so I mean.
Now, Princess Garnet is one that's pretty interesting because she's a princess that, well, maybe not interesting, but it's a little bit different because she's a princess that doesn't want the royal life anymore. She runs away with Zidane and they go off on an adventure, and she ends up having to come back to her kingdom and run it, even though she's been away from it after her mother passes.
Because the original reason that she comes back the first time is because of the attack on Bernicia, because she ends up putting the rest of the party asleep and runs away because she believes she's the only one that can actually stop her mom from doing all this stuff. In reality, her mom captures her, and well, you know.
Her mom's not a very nice lady.
No,
let's just put it that
her
way.
mom is definitely not in her right mind at that point.
That's one of the part where the cinemas are playing. Like, it looks too good.
Yeah.
Because she's hideous.
They call her an elephant lady for a reason. Kuja definitely was not wrong about that. She offends my senses.
Let's see. We touched on Amaranth a bit. He's like a monk type character, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He uses claws and knuckles.
He's a loner who kind of discovers that he needs to buck up and learn how to be a team member. Kina. Do we have anything to say about Kina?
He eats frogs. He likes to eat.
Well, honestly, like, the only part that really sticks out in my mind about Kina is, like, if it wasn't for him, they probably would not have found the entrance to the Outer Continent.
Oh, that's true.
So, that being said, she did help them a lot going through there and stuff like that. I mean, Zidane didn't point out as much as it, helped them find their way around. Like, if it wasn't for them, they probably wouldn't have made it as easily as they did. And so, helped guide him around a little bit too, because she just kind of follows her nose, and so,
He, she.
She.
We don't even know what it is.
The game doesn't even know.
For all that person's indulgence, I would say that they're necessary. That's kind of like the glue that holds it all together, maybe. Put a nice little, like, not so pretty bow on things.
That'll work. And our last character, Aiko. What can we say about Aiko?
She's got a sad story too. Her grandfather died. She's on this island, or like this little piece of land by herself.
Which I think, sorry.
And her little Moogle.
Well, all I was gonna say is I think that's why Vivi and Aiko have such like a good tandem, is because they're a lot alike in the sense that they're both orphans.
That is true. She's a little bit more outgoing, though.
She's a lot, yeah. She's definitely more. Well, she's also had a group of Moogles to talk to, so she's had a chance to socialize and be social.
Yeah.
She's a little spitfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
She grows in character too, though. She has to look into herself and say, maybe I should leave home, and maybe I should help these people, even though
do I want to be alone for the rest of my
right?
life, or do I want to go try to see the world and like make something of myself?
Definitely the theme of the whole game is overcoming yourself, like what Uberlord over here said. So let's move on to best moment in the game, in our opinion. Who would like to lead this one off?
I'll give Iceland a chance on this one myself.
Best moment in the game. You can pick pretty much anything.
Lots of pick, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not arguing there. There's a lot of moments.
I kind of like when they're in the ice cavern and the wind puts them into a deep sleep and they wake up and have to face what was it called again?
The Black Waltz.
The Black
Waltz.
I love the Black
And
Waltz.
it's a solo fight too. You're literally by yourself.
They add like a creep factor to it because they're scary.
Yeah, they're hunting you. Like these people are hunting you down.
In fact, all they say is die.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They are pretty creepy.
Now die.
Yeah, and
they're pretty strong too. Like for early on in the game, like that's a pretty strong boss. Like early discipline bosses should not know fire out. That's all I'm saying.
And they've got 3 different ones. It's not just
And
one.
and let me tell you, if you're doing a level 1 challenge, that is a pain in the butt.
So yours is the Black Waltz, eh?
Yes, the Black Waltz.
What do you think, Sir Uberlord?
For me, it would have to be just like after Lim Lim gets attacked, and then they're like, well, we saw Kuja heading to this place in this outer continent. And they're like, oh, the outer continent. Well, we've heard of this, but we don't really know much about it. And then just that whole journey, and it's just Zidane and the 3 mages eventually, and, you know, Kina, and they all leave together and start this journey through these tunnels of Fossil Rue, and eventually go and find a new continent and like literally pretty much like not discover this place obviously because there's people already living there, but just like for themselves like seeing this, and you know they're on a land, like they're not like on any sort of elevation like they are on the mist continent and seeing the sunshine, you know, they're just like standing on flat ground next to the sea and looking up and seeing the sun. And for them, it's like a, you know, different experience. You can breathe the clean air and, you know, all such stuff. And seeing all that, I love Conde Petit. That's like my favorite place. I will go there and spend hours there just because I love the music and that whole area, just because it's so gorgeous. The village of the dwarves is like that whole experience, and seeing Maiden Sorry for the first time. The Aoife tree. The Aoife tree is like my favorite place to go. I love that music. Yeah, just the whole experience with just the whole outer continent experience just in Disc 2, like that is by far like my favorite time.
Nice. Now, if I had to pick a moment, I actually I like the Siege of Bermesia. It's such a frantic time for the game. It's mainly because it's a time when the good guys aren't winning. Beatrice comes into the game, and she's just like this overpowered knight, basically like what Steiner could be if he wasn't a bumbling idiot.
Mm-hmm. He'd actually dedicated himself to some training and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the city's in danger of, you know, falling. They're trying so desperately to save it, but they just get their butts kicked,
Yeah,
like bad.
Wiped.
Yeah, and usually, you know, you see the good guys winning. This one, you totally don't. And yeah, I kind of love that the fact that Beatrice just wipes them out. You know, it's kind of like how certain bad guys should be. You know, you should
Still makes my blood boil. I'm not gonna lie.
Because, you know, like, there's some good guys who they just have the power of friendship or the power of love, and suddenly they're as good as somebody who's been a badass all their life.
Yeah.
But this person is just like, nope,
It's
you're
like,
done.
yeah, like,
Just floors them.
like, and I'm done with you.
Sit down. You're done.
But yeah, I like that whole situation at Bermesia. It's just so...
Well, for me, I on that one, I always feel so underpowered at that point. Like, and so it's really hard for me. I like Bermesia and going there and stuff like that, but I just feel so weak at that point.
That's kind of what the creators are probably trying to make you feel. It's like you can't always win every battle.
Yeah.
You.
Yes. So yeah, as far as me, I love Bermesia. I like that part.
I cannot get away without making an honorable mention on that note, though, and that's Estogaza and Mount Gullug. Like, that's also, like, because they're awesome places to be. And again, great music.
Nate just loves the whole game. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from that. I love the whole game itself. But, like, if they had to pick 2 favorite spots, like, definitely the Outer Continent more, though. That's by far my favorite.
Nice. And now the question. Why does Final Fantasy IX hold up?
Well, I would say, I feel like we kind of touched on this already, but it really just shows you, like, how someone can grow and, like, how someone can really overcome themselves in a way and, like, overcome their... Because really the only thing standing in your way to do something is you. And it really shows, like, overcoming that boundary and changing something about yourself for the better and growing from that.
What makes this game different from others is that this is one of those games that I can come back to and I feel really fond of. It's not like what Totem Lord said, where you just like pick it up and like, oh, I like it for like half the game and then put it back down.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you want to sit down and dig right back into. And I'm pretty sure it's the nostalgia for me that makes it, you know, hold up together.
I will just say that this is probably the one that I've replayed the most.
Oh, definitely. Don't even say probably.
Why do you think you're here on the channel right
I've replayed a lot of them. Okay, like I've to
Yes,
be
but
fair,
you played this one the
yeah,
most.
nine is probably the one that I played the most.
now? For me, the music's wonderful. The story is great. Character development for the umpteenth time, wonderful. The gameplay is great too. I mean, because we went from basically two, three Final Fantasies where all the characters were just about the same because they could attack, they could use items, and then you could set them to use whatever you want. You could make every single character identical.
Yeah.
In which by the end of the game you kind of do. They all have Kiraga, they all have Meteor, they all have holy magic. But in this game, every single character is unique, not only in their personality, but in their attributes too. And the way that you grow them is really neat too, with the items that you buy. That when you fight for so long, you get the ability to keep for yourself. And plus, they each have like their own the desperation attacks. What are they called?
Oh, the trance attacks.
Trance.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's kind of like its own limit break.
Yeah.
And it fills up a meter, and then as you use stuff, that meter will deplete. And if your spirit, the higher your spirit is, then the longer you get to keep that meter. So like the more uses of trance you get to use.
But yeah, the game is just a blast to play, and the story makes you. It made me stay on way too long many times. But yeah, it's just something that you want to keep coming back to because it's a story that never gets old about about getting over yourself.
It's like that book you never want to put down, and
Yeah,
I get so
true.
sad when I end the game. Like my heart actually gets like heavy when I finish the game.
I believe it. It's definitely one of those games where you're just like, oh, it's over.
Yeah, it makes you sad. That's why I have trouble finishing it sometimes.
Nate just gets to the very end and doesn't do the last
I'm like,
thing.
okay, I already know what I'm doing.
Well, any final thoughts, my lords?
Honestly, I think I've said about all I could say about it.
Overall, a great game. If you haven't played it, you should try it.
I'd say it's definitely a good one to start off on too. If you've never played a Final Fantasy,
That's what I did.
I don't want to like go into it too heavily, but the one thing that I will say is stat maxing is possible in this game. You're not going to get all your stats to like 99 or some crazy crap like that, but you can add significant bonuses to them like throughout the game, and so you can do that just in the course of leveling. Also, it's not you don't need to do anything extra, but if you wanted to focus on it, then you could kind of gear more towards what you want. So look it up.
So overall, I'd say Final Fantasy, it holds up well. It's a good one to start off on. If it's one you haven't played in a while, pick it back up. It is so worth
Absolutely. It's even nicer for the Switch and stuff like that because they do have a lot of nice little features that you can do.
it. I was surprised that they made this one the first one out of all the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I know.
When they started introducing it, I was like,
9 was right there.
yeah, I was like, okay, 9. Because honestly, I'd only played Final Fantasy 9 once. Went through and beat it, loved it, but I never touched it again. I was like,
They ported it on all the consoles too.
yeah. So I was really happy that they made it first because 7 and 8 didn't hold up as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped playing 7 like pretty early on. I went all the way through 9, so if that gives you any ideas about how I think about it.
Agreed. Well, I say we toast to Final Fantasy 9.
All right. Absolutely.
Ka-chow.
Good job.
All right, well, that's all I have for you today. If you like this Totem Lord goodness, I'm also on Twitch at Totem Lord Reviews. I'm on Instagram as Totem Lord, and I'm probably on other stuff too. So anyway, I didn't rehearse that part very well. But anyhow,
Find me somewhere.
Yeah, if you look me up, I'm probably there, and I've always got the potion emblem.
I'm also on Twitch at Ubernate06, but I don't have anything going on at the moment, but I do have a couple of videos that are still up there if you want to check out the favorites.
Don't worry, I'll make them play. All right, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for checking us out. We will judge you next time.